I'm Ben, and this is the new Nautilus that I made for my friend Dan. Here's how it sounds. So I'm digging this guitar here. It's made from Brazilian rosewood and Carpathian spruce. And I'll start with the Brazilian. This is old stuff. And Dan picked this out of my vast rosewood library because it looked really, really similar to a 1920s Martin. I can't remember what model it is. But anyway, the wood could be cut from the same tree, but it's a 100-year-old instrument. So I figured this is going to be like the weird adopted grandson to that instrument. And I hope they get along. This has the beautiful, caramely, almost iridescent look that I treasure so much in Brazilian. Ink lines, caramel, coffee bean. It's got this stain that goes down the back. Here you can see this dark line. And it's here on the sides as well, meaning this was cut from the same board. And it almost has like a green iridescence to it, which sounds strange, but it's really beautiful. It's bound with Macassar ebony, which works really well with this tone of Brazilian rosewood. This Macassar is also caramely and chocolatey. So I love to use it for the surround here. This wood here that I make the bevel, the sound hole surround, and the back. Oh, this one doesn't have a back bevel, but the back bevel. I have to use a pretty dark wood in here because there's some joinery here that if I did it with maple, wouldn't work very well. So I usually use like an ebony or Macassar ebony or East Indian rosewood or Ziracote, Cocobolo would work. Dark woods. And then I was I want to make sure the tones match color-wise. I'm talking cosmetics here. Because they can really clash, if you have a wood that's going reddish or almost yellowish brown here, and I put Ziracote on here, which is like sort of olive, it would just look kind of weird. I know that because I've done it. The top is Carpathian spruce, which Carpathian and North American red spruce, Adirondack spruce, are sort of like what I'm leaning on those guys these days, because they just seem to have like more of those tops have the quality that I want out of it than when I look at other species. I don't know, you can see behind me, I have this huge, you probably just see a fraction of it in the way this is framed, but I've probably got 800 tops in my shop here, which is ludicrous. I'll never use them all in my lifetime because A, I'm not going to live long enough, but B, I'm just not going to use about half of them or maybe even more because they just aren't going to have the sound that I'm looking for. I've become very attuned to a specific sound I want the top to have before I even start building. Because really, like, I'm just helping the top find a place to be. The top is the voice of the guitar. That's really true. Like, yeah, you got to have a good design and your construction has to be good and you have to make it the right thickness. And you have to do a few various things. But then the top does all the work, right? It's the membrane, the vibrating membrane that amplifies the sound. And it's just the most critical thing on the guitar. You can build the back and sides out of whatever you want. I happen to love Brazilian because of the overtones it imparts and the brilliance that it imparts to the sound. But you could probably use birch plywood. And if you had a really good top, you'd still have a good sounding guitar. It would just have different sort of decay qualities. And now that sounds like something that somebody's that's going to come back and haunt me. Yeah, just make my guitar out of birch plywood, man. So Dan had me do this thing I've done a few times before, and I really like it. It's turquoise reconstituted stones for the inlays. These geometric inlays. I don't really do any inlay except these little geometric guys. A, because I never liked how it looked when I did fancier inlays. I always wished it weren't in there. And B, because I've never trained myself how to do it that well. I don't like inlay that much. I just want to see the wood, man. I want the thing to just look as simple and unadorned as possible. And then when you start looking at the details, that's when you see the flash. And turquoise is something I'd sort of spurned for a long time because I associated it with sort of like clumpy southwestern jewelry, with big nuggets of turquoise and stuff. But this reconstituted stone, I think they just grind it up and put it in some kind of resin matrix and make it into sheets. And it's just the most beautiful color. And it happens to go swimmingly with, Macassar ebony and black ebony. Anyway, enough about that. The fingerboard and bridge are West African ebony, black, as are the back of the headstock. And I've got shirtler tuners on here, my faves. Oh, here's an interesting thing. Like when I was setting this baby up, I kept on having trouble with the open E string here. And I couldn't figure out what it was. And I spent a lot of time like, okay, did I cut it was only like, it would sound fine as soon as I fretted it. So I knew it was the nut, and I looked and looked and looked. And finally, I'm just like, there's something wrong with this nut. So it was a bone nut, and I pulled it out, and just to eliminate bone from the circuit, I put in tusk, which is, a synthetic plastic with Teflon impregnation. And boom, it just totally fixed it. So I'm not a big fan of putting plastic on my guitars, but I'm starting to look at tusk here. Maybe that's a good product. It made it really easy. Bone, it's a natural product, and there's a lot of like vascularity. There are a lot of little holes and stuff in there. So the density varies quite a bit. And if you happen to have maybe a light part or some weird part of the bone that you can't even see inside that's underneath one of your strings, it's going to create what am I trying to say? You're going to hear it. It's not going to be good. It will be bad. Let's see. It's a very sonorous instrument, easy to play. Dan, thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy this instrument. I hope he gets along with the rest of your guitar family. right, that's enough of that is enough out of me. I'm done. I'm finished. Thank you for watching, and I'll be back with that Brazilian and Adirondack guitar in a couple weeks for another demo. Thank you very much, and take care.